Hi friends, my name is James and I'm a Kidovator here at Kidovation. I'm here to show you how you can create music using only code. Our coding activities have been developed by Dr. Christine Yu, one of our internal Kidovation team members who has a PhD in computer science, so you know they're good. We recommend this activity for viewers 11 and up. If you're younger than that, we suggest checking out our Coding an Alien video that should be appearing on the screen now. Our goal today is to create a theme tune for your product using a program called Sonic Pi. Coding is a super useful skill set, but many people find it difficult to know where to start. Using a concept that we're all familiar with, in this case music, we hope to make it easier for you to understand the basics, and hopefully inspire you to explore further. Before we get started, however, it might be helpful to loop back quickly on what coding is. Coding essentially is how we talk to computers. Now, computers don't understand English, or any other human language for that matter. They only understand their own languages, which are code. And just like if you were speaking to any human that didn't speak English, in order to be understood by computers, we must translate what we think into their languages in order to be understood. That means we must write in code. Today, we're going to speak to computers about music in a language called Ruby and using a program called Sonic Pi. So, now that that's out of the way, I think we're about ready to start coding. First things first, you'll need to download the program. You do that by opening up the internet and typing into Google the words Sonic Pi, as you see on the screen now. If you press enter, then the first site that shows up on Google should be this one, sonic-pi.net. Make sure it is. Once you go into that, you'll see this intro screen with a little bit of a blurb by Sam telling you why they built Sonic Pi. And then these three buttons here, one of which takes you to the option for a Windows machine, one of which takes you to the option for a Raspberry Pi, and one of which takes you to the option for a Mac. Make sure you press on the right one of those for you. Because I'm on a Mac, I'm going to press on the Mac button now. This will take you to the part of the page that's relevant for your machine. So for me, it's a Mac, and you see this big download button here that I need to press. If you're on a Windows machine, then it'll take you to one that looks a bit more like this. And what you'll probably need to press is this MSI installer button. Press that button, and then what you'll see is the download starting, in my case at the bottom left. You'll then need to wait a couple of minutes just for that to happen, or maybe if you've got good internet, only a few seconds. Once you've got to the end of that, you'll be able to press the open button there, and it should pop up this new file that shows you that it's unzipping the file. That's all good, that's all okay. But you will need to wait for another few seconds now. Once you finish with that, you should have the Downloads menu pop up. And then when you double left click on this button, it should open the application for you. Quick note for Windows users, depending on your computer's permissions, at this point you may not be able to double left click on that. You might have to right click and select Open as Administrator instead. If that's the case, you might need to check with your parent or your carer or your teacher that that's okay. Make sure you do that, because sometimes people don't like it when you download files on their computers that they aren't aware of. So, you'll probably see a pop-up a bit like this show up at this point. Now in this case, you need to pay a lot of attention to messages like this, because they can be dangerous, or they can be at least warning you of danger. So long as you've downloaded the file from sonic-pi.net, you know it's safe though. So you can press the open button there. That then should open the app for you and you're all ready to go. So now that you've got the program downloaded, you should be about ready to start coding. Click on the program icon and within a couple of seconds you should see something similar on screen to what I'm seeing now. So the first thing you'll probably notice when you've opened the program is the interface. That's what we call what you can see on the screen. So just to take you through it, up here you have your controls. These are stuff like run, which allow you to play, to listen to any code that you've written. Stop, to stop it and go back to the start. Record, so you can save something that you really like. Save, so you can save the actual code as well as the music sound for something that you really, really like. And load, so for those things that you really, really like, you can get them out again later. Show your friends. Here is your code editor, where you'll write the code that makes the music. And down here are your tutorials. You can click on these and see instructions, which you can then go through in order to learn a little bit more about the program. Up here, finally, we've got a sound wave there, which will move up and down when we make music. And then here we've got our logs, which show what we've done. So to get started, we're going to teach you some basic commands. The first thing we're going to teach you is how to play a note. Notes are the foundation of music. It's like if you were pressing a key on a piano, or if you're strumming a single string on a guitar. Now what we do with Sonic Pi is we go up into the code editor up here, and we use the command play. Now play is us telling the computer to play that one note, so push that one key on a piano, or strum that single string on the guitar. What you need to add after the play is a number. In this case, I'm going to use the number 60. What I'm doing there is I'm telling the computer to play a note, and then I'm choosing my number, number 60. I want you to play that one, please, computer. You can do this for more than one number. You can do pretty much any number you want. We recommend, however, you do all of those between 50 and 75, because those are the best ones for the human ear to hear. Much higher than that, and you need animal hearing, something like dogs, to be able to hear it. And much lower than that, and you need very different animal hearing, something like a blue whale to be able to hear it. So now that you've put your notes in, you'll want to hear what they sound like. That's very easy to do. Just press the run button up here, and you should hear something like this. Why don't you have a play around with the different numbers? See what the different things sound like. For instance, if I make these all lower, they sound very different. Or if I make them all higher, up near to 75, then they also sound very different. Also, if you add just one command, then you get a single note. Whereas if you add multiple commands, then you get what we call a chord, which is essentially more than one note played at the same time. You guys might know that from music. Have a play around and see what you like. So now that we've added our notes, it's time to introduce a new function. This function is the sleep function, and it allows us to put in a pause between our notes. You add it quite simply by typing on a line in between two notes the word sleep and then adding a number. The size of the number will determine how long the pause is. So for instance, if I add the number 1 there, and then I add the number 2 here, it will be twice as long in the second pause as it will be in the first pause. Try adding a couple now, and then pressing the run button to hear what it sounds like. Very different, no? So now that you've learned how to add notes and pauses between the notes, you have everything you need to create a melody. That's what we call a tune. Have a play around, see what you like. For instance, the one I've got here is a bit like the tune Do Re Mi from The Sound of Music. Why don't you have a play? See what you like. So now that we've learned how to make basic melodies, it's time to add a new function to change the sound. We're going to do that by adding this new command called amp. And you add that by going to the end of a line, typing a comma, and writing the word amp, followed by a colon, a space, and then a number. We recommend you use any number between 0.5 and 2. What this will do is it will make it louder or quieter. And the bigger the number, the louder the sound. So for instance, I'm going to add these 3 amp functions in, and you can hear how it sounds. Why don't you have a play around now? Add a few of your favourite things and see if you can replicate a tune that you really, really like. So now that we've learned how to build a basic melody and how to make it louder or quieter, it's time for us to add some new functions in. Now what we're looking to do now is make it sound cooler. You see, we know enough code to be able to speak some basic stuff to our computer, but we don't know enough to make it sound really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top of our code and put in a couple of lines, and then type in this new function, use underscore synth space colon. And you see this drop down menu here. What we're doing here is we're adding synths, and these are all the synths that we can add. Now synths will make our notes sound different. They'll make it sound better. I'm going to go to this one that I like called saw. Try pressing enter and then pressing run on that. And you hear it sounds very different. However, if you don't like it, what you can do is you can go back here and redo it. So if you press use underscore synth space colon again, and then add a new one you like, I'm going to add another one called profit this time. And then, oops, make sure you get rid of the first one. And press run again. You see it sounds very different again. Why don't you have a play around and see what you like? If you want some ideas for different synths you can use, come down to the tutorials here. Press 2.2 Synths Options. If you scroll through here, you can see a whole bunch of different things that you can try out. Have a play. So now that we've learned how to build a basic melody, increase the sound and decrease the sound of notes, and learn how to make it sound cool, it's time for us to add some new functions. Now this function we're going to add next is called sample, and it's what we do to add a new sound on and layer the music up bit by bit. You add it by going into your code under the synth but before the notes, or actually you can do it anywhere between the notes if you'd like as well, adding the word sample, space, colon, and then you can choose from this drop down what you like to add. Now my favourite one is called guitar E-slide, and I think it sounds best when there's a pause after it as well, so I'm going to add a sleep function as well. Here's what it sounds like. Like it? I do. There are loads of samples you can add. For instance, if you want to make something sound creepy, you can add this one called ambi drone. Or if that's too much for you, like it is for me, then you can make it sound like you're in a club with a DJ. So for instance, try adding this vinyl rewind function. That's more my thing. Have a play around, see what you like. So now that we've learned how to build our melodies, make notes sound louder and softer, and also add cool sounds like synths and samples, it's time for us to look at a new functionality. Now this functionality is very important to coding. It's the loop function. What this does is it allows you to take some code that you've written and repeat that over and over again without having to write the same bit of code. Now this is very important for programmers because it gets very boring when we have to write something out 100 times. And this happens a lot in coding because you want things to happen over and over again. Looping is very important. It just saves us a lot of time. In Sonic Pi, you add it by adding a couple of lines, adding the word loop, a space, and the word do, and then go to the end of where you want to be looping and add the word end. You can add it either to the whole tune that you've written or just part of the tune, like say for instance just the sample or just the notes. I'm going to add it to the whole tune and show you what that sounds like. You see how it's repeating over and over. If on the other hand, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't the whole tune that was doing that, and just my sample, I can do that by adding that in here, and then pressing run again. And as you can see, my drum beat's now going over and over and over. It's actually not ever getting to the end, so my notes can't play. So I might not like that. I want to make sure my notes that do actually play because I spend a lot of time writing them. So now I'll get rid of these. I'll go back in here to bring this one back to the start, and I'll add my loop now to the notes instead. You do that by taking the loop away from the sample, putting it just in front of the notes where you want it to start, and adding the end just after the notes. Once you press the key enter, that should all be there, and then when I press run, you hear that my notes are now playing over and over again. Why don't you have a play? See what you like to loop over and over and see if it makes your sound any better. So now you know how to add loops. But the thing about loops, sometimes you don't want something to go on forever. You might only want it to happen a certain number of times. Say for instance 3 times. We can do that too in Sonic Pi. You do that by using a new function called times. Now you start that by typing in a number and then a full stop before you write the word times. Then add a space and the command do before pressing enter. Make sure you add that, and then because this is a command function, you need to add the word end again. If you add that, what you'll get now is 3 drum beats before the music starts, the notes start, sorry. What you expected? Good. You can add these on top of one another. So say I might want to have 3 sets of drum beats and then 2 sets of music. I do that by adding in, as well as my 3 times up there, I add in a 2 times do here, and then go to the bottom of my notes and add end again. And when I play that, it sounds just like you expect. You can add functions within functions too. So say if I wanted to make this whole thing repeat, I can do that by adding in a loop over the start and then also the end again, right at the end. And when I press play, you should get 3 drum beats, 2 notes, and then again 3 drum beats, 2 notes, and then again 3 drum beats and 2 notes, on and on and on. Why don't you have a play around and see what you can do with loops and times to make your music sound better? So we're coming towards the end of our session now, but before we do, there's one more functionality that we wanted to leave you with. This is called the FX function, and what it essentially does is add studio effects to your tune, much like a music producer might if they were in a studio. You can learn loads about effects by going down to tutorial 6, where you see all the theory behind it, and then all the different options, and you can read that all if you'd like. However, I'm just going to tell you the basics about how you add it. So you add it by going into the tune. Now you can add effects to the whole tune, or you can just add it to part of the tune. I'll show you how in just a second. And adding with FX, right, with underscore FX, space, colon, and then again this drop down shows you all your options. Now I want to make mine sound a little strange. So I'm going to add wobble. And actually, what you've just seen there is you shouldn't put a space between the colon and the function. If you do that, it will break. So that's a very good thing not to do. And then you go to the end of the tune and you add the word end again. If I didn't want it to be for the whole tune, I would just add it, say, in here just before my times, or just add it in here just after my times if I wanted it to only apply to the notes and not to the sample of the drum as well. However, you see now, if I've applied it to the whole tune, what it makes it sound like. So it's made all my notes wobble from side to side almost. Basically sounds a little bit like a 1980s Christmas song. So, you guys might want to add some new ones. So why don't you try having a play around with the different options in the drop-down menu. Echo is another one of my favourites. A little bit eerie now. It's almost like you're playing that in a little cave and it's just reverberating back at you. Slice is another good one. Just breaks up all the notes to make them staccato. Have a play around, pick your favourites. As mentioned, you don't have to do this for the whole tune. You can do it just for part of the tune instead if you'd like. Or even let's do echo. That might sound even more obvious. Have a play around, see what you like. There are tons of options in here and you can make your music sound really cool with FX. So there we are. We've taught you all the functions that we wanted to teach you today and you're now ready to go off and start making music. In no time at all, you now can be making Ed Sheeran tunes, or even big television masterpieces, a bit like Game of Thrones. Or you can just do my favourite and make tunes that you really like the sound of. So now that we've shown you the basics, why not try building an original piece of music? One that you can use in an advert for your new product. If you don't have a product yet, or are unsure what we're talking about, we recommend checking out our playlist on design thinking. A link to the playlist is on screen now. We hope you enjoyed this activity. If you want to learn more about design thinking, please subscribe to our channel or have a look at our website, kidovation.org. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Keep on innovating!